So good morning, everybody. For those who are new to our calls, I'm Christine Jacobs. I'm the Executive Director of Represent PA. We are the PAC in Pennsylvania that's completely focused on electing pro-choice Democratic women to the state legislature, both House and Senate, with the idea that we need a majority in those chambers in order to have the state that or Commonwealth that we think we have. We've had a series of breakfast briefings on policy, on what's going on, and clearly the last one was on guns and how to regulate guns. The one before that was on abortion. So we decided to flip things around a little bit. Some months ago, we had our two guests for today, we had them on talking about what they saw as the future of the races for both the House and the Senate in Pennsylvania. And we decided now that we've got, how many days left before election, Melanie?
76.
Now that we've got 76 days until election day, and how many days until mail-in votes? So stop muting yourself.
I believe 46.
Until mail-in starts. So
no, that's not right. I think it's 36.
Okay, we're hitting the crunch time. And so what we decided to do is invite the leaders back to talk about what's going on in their races, how money will help, what else can help, and how they're going to make things happen this year. Again, I talk about this. These are all, there's whatever your favorite issue is, it is at stake in Pennsylvania. It is, none of these things will happen. If you're an education voter, if you're a gun safety voter, if you're an environmental voter, if you're an abortion rights voter, nothing on this list will happen in a good way in Pennsylvania without a Democratic governor and a majority in at least one of the chambers, because this legislature, even if Josh Shapiro is elected, this legislature is hell-bent to pass restrictions on all of these kind of things through the state constitution and the amendment process, which does not take the governor's signature. We also cannot get to positive changes and positive discussions on any of these subjects without flipping a chamber. So I like this one. We've sent it out before. We're already, the women of Pennsylvania and the women that we've helped elect are already leading discussions in Harrisburg. Joanna McClinton is the leader of the Democrats in the House. Leanne Kruger is the leader of, she's works with Trevor, and she's from the House point of view. She's a leader on the campaigns. And we've also, Emily Kincaid is in Western PA, and we've worked with her. All of these women are leading on subjects. Another one I could put up here is Lindsey Williams, who's up for re-election in the state Senate this year. I tell her all the time, I want her to be the majority lead in the Senate Education Committee. Things would happen. Things would happen if any, you can see all the women that we've supported this year, things will happen if these women are elected and can be in charge of committees and in charge of policy in Pennsylvania. And they just make me so happy to look at. You know, we supported Joanna in her first, she was running in a special election in 2015, I think it was, and we supported her. And so we've been with her since her beginning of her time in the State House. Today, we're pleased to have Trevor Southerland, the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania House Democratic Caucus Committee. If you all watched what happened in Virginia in 2018, 2019, Trevor was instrumental in flipping their caucus to the House of Delegates to the Democrats. You know, fortunately for us, we brought him on. Unfortunately for Virginia, they flipped the other direction last time. So I'm hoping that they're going to make some changes, but they'll have to do it without Trevor because he's committed to change in Pennsylvania. We also have Melanie Rose, who's the Executive Director of the Senate Caucus. She's worked on a variety of campaigns throughout the state, and now she's our focal point for what's going on the Senate campaigns. So do we want to start with Senate or do we want to start with House?
We can start with the House.
Trevor, you're on.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you having me on to talk about where some of our races stand. I'm going to go through a few of, a little bit of the overview of what we're looking at, and then talk about specifically a few races that I think some of you might be interested in. And then I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. One of the things that the new maps did for us in the House is it ungerrymandered a lot of districts that have been gerrymandered for decades. And it presents opportunities for us that have not existed in the past. And one of the things that we're most excited about is the number of open seats that we're running in. There are 3 seats we're running in that are competitive, brand new districts. There is no natural incumbent. So that's the race where Ardvin Ventcat is running. That's the race where Mandy Steele is running. And that's the race where Paul Takak is running. Because there's no incumbents there, it makes those districts really possibilities for us to win. All 3 of those campaigns are running good campaigns. All of them are districts that went for Joe Biden slightly. They're all about 51 or 52% Biden seats. So those open seats with no incumbents, that's a real opportunity for us. The next level of opportunity for us is the number of critical Republican retirements. There are 5 Biden districts where there are Republican incumbents who have given up the ship and have decided not to run. So that's the seat where Justin Fleming is running. That's the seat where Johanni Cepeda Freitas is running. That's the seat where Tim Brennan is running, Tara Probst, and Mark Maffa. Those are open Republican retirement seats where they have given up and gone home. There's another 6 districts that are opportunity districts for us. They are flips. We have to run against Republicans, but they are seats that Joe Biden won. So they are trending towards us. One of the things that I always am surprised by, but I shouldn't be, Pennsylvania has very small districts in the House. There's about 60,000 voters per district. And it really gives an incumbent advantage so that you have someone like a Todd Stevens sitting in a 62% Biden seat who has managed to hold on several times. At the same time, on our side, we have people like Frank Burns sitting in a 32% Biden seat that has managed to hold on. The smallness of those districts really gives an edge to the incumbents because of the constituent services work they do. We're working to overcome that in these 6 districts. That's where Missy Serrato is running. That's where Lisa Borowski is running, Paul Friel, Kathy Sparr, Brian Monroe, and Lori Smith. Those are districts, Biden was above 50. They are blue seats. The people there naturally want to vote for Democrats. We've just got to get them over to our person. So we've been working very hard in those districts. I want to briefly talk about Mandy Steele. Mandy Steele is out in Pittsburgh. Her polling shows the race dead even, and that's exactly what this district is. This is a 52% Biden seat. So in a midterm election, it's going to be a dead even race. Mandy has knocked on 1,500 doors herself. Her campaign is coming close to 4,000. They are doing the work, but they do have a big funding gap, about a $500,000 funding gap. Our next person I want to talk about is Missy Serrato.
Wait, Trevor, I just want to make sure everybody heard. Mandy Steele has a funding gap. Guess what? Mandy Steele is one of the candidates we've helped fund. We've already invested, I think it's $16,000 in her race, but we want to give Mandy Steele more money. Okay, thank you. My commercial, Trevor. Continue.
I appreciate it. You can do that commercial every time.
I love these women, so.
Missy Serrato, she's in the 151st. She is our candidate who is finally going to send Todd Stevens packing, so we're really excited about that. This is a 62% Biden seat. Again, polling shows this race a dead heat. The polling in this race was before the campaign started communicating, right? The fact that an incumbent like Stevens is faced in a dead heat before communication is a really good sign for us. So we've got to keep pushing with Missy. She herself has knocked on over 2,500 doors. Her campaign has knocked on 22,000. She also has a funding gap, again, around $500,000 that we're looking to find for that race. The next person I want to talk about briefly, Lisa Borowski. She's running in the Chris Quinn seat. This is another 62% Biden seat where a Republican incumbent has entrenched himself and held on. The one thing I'll say though, both Stevens and Quinn have not gotten some of the traditional endorsements that they've gotten in the past from left-leaning organizations. So they have seen a decline in support from our organizations, which is good. Lisa Borowski, again, polling shows it a dead heat. Polling was before messaging. So the question is, can we communicate enough to overcome the incumbent advantage? Now, here's the thing about this race. You know, I said Mandy and Missy, they had $500,000 funding gaps. Lisa, $1 million funding gap. The funding gaps in different sections are different based on how much you need to go on television and do different forms of communications. Lisa's district, because of the way it is the most expensive cable district in the state. So it takes a lot more to communicate the exact same we can communicate other places with half the money.
For people on the call, Lisa's district, Lisa is a commissioner in Radnor Township. It's Delaware County, but it's been redrawn this time to include Radnor, which is part of the reason that Trevor's excited about it. But it's deep in the Philadelphia, media market, and I think that's what you're talking about, Trevor.
Yep, exactly. Next one is Johanni Cepeda Freitas. Johanni is in the Reading district that has a Republican incumbent. He decided to retire. It is a 60% Biden seat. Johanni is leading in the polls. We are very excited about this race. We're looking forward to having Johanni join the caucus. She does still have a funding gap of about $95,000 that we're working on with her, but we feel good about that race and we feel good about having her join us. Another one we feel good about is Tara Propes in the 189th. This is a 57% Biden district. Again, polling shows a good lead. We have a funding gap of about $60,000 there that we're looking to finish out Tara's spending plan, but really excited about where she is and what we can do in that district. Next one is Kathy Sparr. She's running against Craig Williams. We're starting to get into tougher territory now. This is a 54% Biden seat where Josh Shapiro only got 50%. In most of our districts, Josh Shapiro outperformed Joe Biden. In this district, Joe Biden massively outperformed Josh Shapiro. So that tells us that this district is actually weaker for us than some of the numbers might indicate, because there were Republicans who were upset with Donald Trump that voted for Joe Biden, but then went back home and voted for Republicans the rest of the way down the ballot. Kathy is behind in the polls, but it's not unwinnable. So we're still doing the work we need to do here, but we do have about a $600,000 funding gap for Kathy's campaign. She herself has knocked on over 1,300 doors. Her campaign has knocked on 6,500. A new candidate in the 18th, Lori Smith. This is a replacement candidate who stepped up to run when our original nominee was unable to continue the race. This is the Casey Tomlinson seat. It is a Biden 53 seat. All of our polling is still in the field here, so I don't have data to tell you. What I can tell you is that it's a $500,000 funding gap again. Lori is out knocking on doors. She is a school teacher. She just retired a couple of months ago. We're really excited about our possibilities here and can't wait to see where the polling puts us. And then a couple other candidates that I want to touch on that are in much tougher districts but are still doing the work. Sarah Agerton, Anna Thomas, and Gwen Stoltz. All three of these seats are flip districts. All three of these seats are Biden sub 50. They're much tougher districts, but I'm very proud of the work these candidates are doing. For example, Sarah Agerton's campaign has knocked on over 15,000 doors. So there's been a lot of effort done there, a lot of volunteers knocking doors, and I'm very excited about the work those three are doing. This year really sets up for us to give us a shot at the majority. It's not an easy shot. It's not a simple shot. I'd love it to be a lot better than it is, but it does give us that path. And that's what we ask for in maps. And that's why it's so good that our new maps are not gerrymandered. Both sides have a shot at the majority, which is what you should have in Pennsylvania. It's a toss-up state. So we're really excited about where we stand. We think we have a good opportunity, and we're just going to keep working for it and see what the next couple of months brings us. But I'd be glad to answer any questions, or I'd be glad to wait and let Melanie go and then answer any questions anybody has, whichever you prefer.
A couple specific ones for you, and then we'll get into the general, how can we help you? If you could first, somebody asked if you could define how do you measure a funding gap? And somebody else asked, tell them again how many seats you need to get the majority. You've got a certain number of ones you're sure of, but you've also got a few that we haven't talked about with, where, we do talk about men occasionally. And there are some races where there are incumbents who are having a really tough time because of as the maps were redrawn, they lost some of their security.
Yeah, not a problem. So the funding gaps are calculated for each race based on what they need to do to communicate. So that's what do they need to do on the field? What do they need to do on mail? What do they need to do on television? What do they need to do on digital? And for each race, it's going to be a little bit different. Like I mentioned with Lisa, Lisa has multiple cable markets, right? So in her district, we have to go up on additional cable markets. There are other districts where one cable market is all we need. So we can just do the advertising there. Everybody in the district sees it. It's simple. There's other districts such as the Paul Takak district that require more of a digital spend. So it's calculated for each district, but it's based on the communication needs for those campaigns and what they need to do. As far as the overall map goes, so we're currently down 12 seats. So we need a net gain of 12, but that's a little hard to look at because it's new maps. So it sort of changes the math a little bit. We start out with 80 seats that should be Democratic wins. We then have 6 what we call monitor races. These are incumbents that should be okay, but are slightly vulnerable. So those people are Dan Williams, Brandon Markozik, Robert Mirsky, Anita Kulik, Kyle Mullins, and Eddie Pashinsky. We feel good about all of those races right now. That gets us to 86. We then have 5 frontline defense races. These are our competitive members that are in vulnerable districts. That includes Ryan Bizzarro, Rob Maxey, Kevin Boyle, Chris Sonato, and Frank Burns. The 5 of them are going to be very competitive races. We have to make sure we hold them. If we hold all of these folks, that gets us to 91. We then have 5 competitive open seats, right? So I talked about 3 of them, Ardvent, Mandy, and Paul. We also have Jimmy Haddock. He's running in the seat that Rep. Carroll is retiring from. We also have Vito Malakari. He's running in the seat that Rep. Mullery is retiring from, right? So if we win all those districts, now we're at 96. Then we start getting into the red to blue districts. We need, if we're at 96, obviously we need to get 6 of them to win the majority. There are 11 red to blue districts on our list. Those are the ones I talked about: Justin Fleming, Missy Serrato, Lisa Borowski, Johanni Cepeda Freitas, Tim Brennan, Tara Probst, Paul Friel, Kathy Sparr, Loy Smith, Brian Monroe, and Mark Maffa. So out of those 11, we need to win 6 for the majority if we win everything else that I talked about. In addition to that, we have 2 legacy retirement seats. That's Tim McGonigal. He's running where Rep. Longjetti is retiring. Doug Mason. He's running where Rep. Snyder is retiring. And then I mentioned some of those tier 2 races like Sarah Adgerton, Gwen Stoltz, Anna Thomas. We have some sub-Biden 50 seats that are still in good shape for us. So that is sort of how our math looks. And I think it's definitely going to be a positive year for us. Whether we win the majority or not is still up in the air. There's still a lot of time before that happens.
The Inquirer today said you had a good shot. We're being positive.
I'll take it.
You'll take it. For those of you who've asked us in the chat, we will summarize between Tilly and I. Will go through and listen to the replay again to make sure that we send you all the names. And our next event in September is going to be talking about how to go volunteer. You can talk about that. But if one of the names that Trevor's mentioned is in your district, go work for them. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of other ways for you to give your time and your money. So we've also re-put our website and our information in the chat for people who want to donate to us, and we'll make sure that, oh, guess what, it'll be in the follow-up email that it's time to send money. So let's move on to Melanie, and let's talk about what's going on the Senate side, and then we'll get some broader questions for all of you.
Thank you. And Trevor's always a tough act to follow because I feel like I need to have all the same information in my brain. And I really just have so much respect because I only have 25 districts up every cycle and he's
got 203.
203. So Trevor, forever kudos to you. Let's get started. I think the last time I spoke with all of you, I just wanted to put our website link again. We completely rebranded. PASenateDems.com. Have to give it a shout out because it has been my baby for the last 2 years. So like I said, we have a tougher path to majority. I will walk you through the geography. Like I said, we have 50 districts. We currently hold 21 seats following a special election win in Northeast Philadelphia in May during the primary. We hold 21 seats. Our goal for this year is to flip 2 seats, which would get us to 23 in addition to protecting all of our incumbents, and leave us with flips in 15, 37, and 49 next cycle in 2024. 15 is a brand new Dauphin County seat, and I will talk about 2022, I promise. 15 is a brand new Dauphin County seat. 37 is the former Pam Iovino seat. That seat quite literally flip-flops every 4 years. So I like to think it is our turn to win it back come 2024, and Senate District 49, which is up in Erie against Dan Laughlin.
Just a refresher, in Pennsylvania civics, the Senate seats are 4-year terms. It's the even number, as Melanie's talking, you can see it's the even number of seats. If they have an even number district, they're up this time. The odd districts are up next time.
Here they are. So feel free to take a screenshot of it, or Chris,
we'll send it out with our,
just send a slide around. This is a list of all of our candidates. The bolded ones indicate having gotten support from Represent PAC already this cycle, which we super appreciate. So as you can see, we have 50 seats. We have recruited in 23, or not 50 seats, we have 25. We were able to recruit in 23 out of 25 of them, including Senate District 32, where we ran a write-in campaign, which we are thrilled about. So these are the candidates who are up this cycle. So incumbent protection, protecting all of our incumbents is important. I'm going to focus on the 3 who are endorsed by Represent PAC. And if anyone has additional questions about someone who's not, they can reach out to me. In order of priority for us, Senator Lindsey Williams, who was an early endorsement, I think, and I say this on every call, Represent PAC were both, I think all 3 of these women's first 4-figure checks, maybe 5-figure checks in 2018, and really kind of put them on the map and push them over the edge in 2018. And we hope that, we know you guys are doing the same this cycle in 2022, but Senator Lindsey Williams is an incumbent out in Allegheny County. She has been door knocking both early paid doors in 2021 and now for the last 2 years. She's already up on digital. If you are interested, I did hyperlink Lindsey's picture. It does lead to her newest digital ad if anyone is interested in watching it, but you can also just find it later. And she's also out on early mail. I believe her first piece is supposed to drop next week. So she is going early on everything. She also has a funding gap of about, I want to say $450,000. TV is expensive. Earlier mail means more pieces, which means higher expenses. And paying for field is very, very expensive. She is door knocking. I see someone, you can see a piece of a chat. She's door knocking every day. She's phone banking every day. So please join her. Please help fund her. Continue to help fund her. She really deserves to be reelected, and she has earned to be reelected.
And you said her polling is about even?
Yes, she is +5 in her polling. So we will take that as a statistical tie when you calculate in a margin of error. So she needs everything. Senator Katie Mooth is also.
And by the way, anybody in this on this, sorry, Melanie, but if there's anybody in this call from the Pittsburgh area who has not been invited to our fundraiser next week in person to come meet Lindsey Williams, please put your name and contact information in the chat, and we'll make sure you're invited to join a lovely group of candidates who we're going to have there. Sorry, Melanie, I got to throw the commercials in there for us.
I appreciate it. Anything that brings any of them more attention, I will take. We'll move back. Senator Lindsey Williams is quite literally the only race that we have a potential flipping on the western half of the state, not flipping, but holding on the western half of the state. Most of our districts in 2024 are in Western Pennsylvania. The rest of our seats up the cycle that we are targeting are in Northeastern Pennsylvania and Southeastern Pennsylvania. So let's move on back to the other side of the state. Senator Katie Mooth, I know you all know her. I know we all love her. Another rock star on the doors. She has about a $250,000 funding gap as well. I don't think I need to tell anyone on this call that she is outdoor knocking probably about 300 doors every night. Most of them by herself. She is a rock star on doors. She is a rock star on social media. Her early digital starts, I believe, the end of this week. So tomorrow, and mailing is going to start a little bit later. She's up in her poll, I believe, I want to say 7 points. She still needs all of the help. We tell our candidates and train our candidates to run like they're 10 points behind at all times. And she is no exception. We are really, really excited about her re-election. We feel really confident that we can get it done, but again, we just need the help to get there. And lastly, but certainly not least, Senator Maria Collette. She is an incredible candidate, an incredible politician, and an incredibly hard worker. And I will say the same, her funding gap is a little bit smaller. It's about $150,000. Her district is a little bit safer, and I will get into the numbers on the next, I think I have numbers on the next slide. If I don't, I'll send them to Chris. Her district is a little bit safer, but that still means nothing. She, has a full mail program, has a full digital program, and does intend to go up on TV. I know she's been working I know all three of them have been working really closely with their nested house races to door knock and kind of work together, both with the coordinated campaign and just the, future colleagues of the state house. or current colleagues of the State House to be successful and get everyone across the finish line. Like I said, all 3 have funding gaps. Let's just get them across the finish line, and please door knock with them as well. Senate District 6. If anyone on this call knows me, and Chris said, you know, Melanie works on a lot of campaigns in Pennsylvania. Senate District 6 is my baby, and
That's Bucks County.
it is Bucks County. It is my pet project all of the time, and my reason for being the executive director of the SDCC. I managed Tina Davis's election in 2018 against Tommy Tomlinson, and she lost by 74 votes, which was 0.01%, which is so painful to continue to talk about. And the hill I will die on is winning any, like, Senate District 6 taking the majority. It will get done because of those 74 votes. So Anne Marie Mitchell, whom you all may be familiar with from 2020, is our candidate working in Senate District 6. She's a rock star on the doors. I think her field program is first or second to having knocked the most doors within all of our tiered Senate races. So they are certainly doing a lot. As you can see, it is a bubble race. Biden did not win this district. He got 49.31% of the vote. Shapiro did not win this district, but Senator Casey and Governor Wolf did. It is a weird district where, you know, the names of the people you're running against mean something. And, you know, that goes for, you know, someone like Brian Fitzpatrick or a Tomlinson, or in this case, Frank Ferry. She's running against a very beloved incumbent House member who used to bill himself as a Republican. He is not. Her opponent, who used to get endorsed by Planned Parenthood, voted for Senate Bill 106, which we all know is the constitutional amendment to ban abortion. That effectively stopped him from getting a lot of more, you know, establishment Democratic endorsements, and is allowing Anne Marie to run on a reproductive rights message that we know can tank him in the polling. Her poll gets back this week, so I don't have any results for you. But I feel pretty confident that if we can make everyone aware of who Frank Ferry really is, which is, you know, far-right Republican masking as moderate, we can get this done. Yes, Meg, thank you for putting that in the chat. All 4 of our flip seats I'm going to talk about are open seats. We saw Republican retirements in Senate District 6, which would have been Tommy Tomlinson, is Frank Ferry. Senate District 40, which would have been Mario Scavello, but is running against State Representative Rosemary Brown. And in Senate District 24, and I know Jill Dunnan is on this call anyway, so please correct my pronunciation of your opponent's name. Bob Mensch retired, and Tracy Pennyquick is running, who is
it's just so everybody knows, it's Penny Cook. It's spelled like quick, but it's Cook. Nobody gets it right. No one gets it right. I just refer to her as Tracy. I don't even do
that. So we have retirements in every single one of our open flip seats. Next slide. And Jill Dunnan. Jill, I feel like you should just talk about yourself. Jill is a phenomenal candidate. She's working incredibly hard. She started talking at the beginning of this call, but I asked her to increase her call time hours, and she did. She's doing about 5 hours of call time a day, in addition to door knocking all over the district. When I said I think Anne Marie Mitchell is the second or topmost doors, Jill is the topmost doors, I believe. I think there's like a little rivalry going on between her field director and another field director of mine trying to be the top doors every week. And I haven't checked our report from this morning that I asked them to send around, so I will keep everyone updated. But Jill does everything we ask her to do and then some. It is another one of those bubble districts. There are more Democrats registered to vote in this district than Republicans. Her biggest roadblock, I would say, is turnout. There are some huge pockets of Democrats in her district that just don't show up to vote in the polls. And I know Jill's working really, really hard with her team and our field team to turn out, Pottstown to vote and these other little pockets of Democrats who just are registered. It is in Western Monroe County and Berks County.
Montgomery County.
Montgomery.
Sorry. Montgomery County. Western Montgomery County and Berks County. And we can win this. I feel very confident we can win this. The generic Dem in her district is +2, which means we know that we have a base of voters there that we can pick up. Jill just needs money and help to get there. Anything else you want to add, Jill?
I'll just say, I don't even know if I was supposed to be on this call. Now I feel uncomfortable since you're all talking about me. But yeah, I will just say it is, the fundraising is the big thing right now. And when you spend 5 hours a day, fundraising, that means that you can only spend 3 hours a day or so knocking doors, because you really can't knock doors much before, during the week anyway, much before 4 o'clock, and then you have meetings to go to at night. So volunteers for knocking doors is always great. And there is a funding gap. I mean, I was stunned by the funding gap that I heard, because I'm not really following the House races, and I was stunned by the funding gap that they have in the House races. And I do. I mean, Melanie's not talking about specific funding gaps, but I have a huge funding gap, mainly because the way donors don't, big donors and the unions and all that stuff, they don't start sending checks till September. But for example, like I would love to I really was pushing to send out my mailing at the end of this week, because my opponent already sent out her first mailing, but we're concerned about the money, because I just, have not been able to raise that level of funds. I mean, you're talking, these races are anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million, precisely because of what Melanie said and Trevor said about the TV market. We have been flipping a little bit more to digital right now, because a lot of people are, they look at digital. I don't know how many people look at the television commercial after the NBC News or whatever. That's something that we probably would have to get polling on. But it is frustrating, because you make all the calls and it's just, there's only so much money that is there.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Always good to hear from you.
And I'll just to go off of what Jill said, outside of Jen, whose slide we are on right now, Senator Collette, Senator Mooth, Jill, and Anne Marie are all in the Philadelphia media market, which, as Trevor said, is the most expensive market. So your funds go a long way. Your funds go even longer in a place like Senator Lindsey Williams, or the next slide, Jennifer Shakaitis, who is in NEPA. So Jen is an elected official in East Stroudsburg. She is an incredibly hard worker. Her district is in Monroe County, parts of Lackawanna County. She took a part of where Senator Marty Flynn used to be, in all of Lackawanna County, and in Wayne County. I actually went door knocking with her on Saturday, and she can outpace me any day of the week. In heels. She is an incredibly hard worker, and really she kind of got into this last minute. We had a little switch up with candidates. She jumped into this 2 days before petition started, and really just dove in head first and has not stopped since. Her budget is a little bit smaller because it is NEPA. The district is in an area with a cheaper media market. Her funding gap is still about $250,000. and we are working very, really hard with her to close it. A lot of what her focus is door knocking, and it is field. Monroe County is a really unique area because it is only about an hour and a half from New York City. And during the pandemic, it had a lot of growth of people coming from New York City to move permanently to their vacation homes. We saw a huge uptick in voter registration in the area and a huge uptick of the number of people who voted in the 2020 election. So a lot of her role and our goal with her right now is to make sure we are engaging with those people who vote by mail and engaging with those people who are newly Monroe County voters to make sure that they show up and they vote for Jen.
That's smart.
So field is really, really important for her, engaging. She does phone banking 3 times a week. Like I said, her district is in a very mountainous region. So door knocking when it's dark out is not exactly encouraged because you are going door to door in places where there's very little lighting and it's heavily wooded. We have a bear sighting tracker, through her district, and it's happened a couple times. So we, do what we can to keep them safe. They have phone banking 3 times a week. So if you're interested in helping Jen out, you can do it from anywhere in the state. And we got her polling back last night, so I have not gone through it yet. Yes, playing on hard mode. And she is, like I said, an incredibly hard worker. It is a difficult district, but we feel very confident in our ability to get it done. What I will say about Jen's district, and a district that is not a endorsed candidate because he's not a woman, in the Lehigh Valley, Nick Miller, is that both Monroe County and the Lehigh Valley are incredibly important for Josh Shapiro to win. So the Shapiro campaign has been working really, really closely with all of our candidates, but specifically in Senate District 40 with Jen Shakaitis and Senate District 14 with Nick Miller, because those areas are incredibly important to turn out in order for Josh and John Fetterman to be successful in their victories. And I will say, I saw some comment in the chat about being nested. Almost all of my races are nested on top of targeted races for the HDCC, and my field director and Trevor's field director Sawyer are on the phone probably more than I speak to my field director, making sure that everything is going smoothly. We're talking to each other, making sure that we're IDing for each other and working very, very closely together to make sure that, we all work together. A rising tide lifts all boats. And we know that, working with the House and moving up the ticket is going to help Josh and John Fetterman in the end. Just my QR code to do it. I listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't stick a QR code that you could scan for the SDCC donation link on there. And that is my contact information. Please take it. Please call me if you have questions.
Thank you, Melanie. So I want to go back to a few things we've talked about and see, I don't know if there's any other additional questions for the two of them. As I've said in the chat, we're going to send all this information that we got today. We can go back to, money is the important thing we're talking about here, and time. And those are the ways that if you want to make Pennsylvania a better place to live, whatever your issue is, these are what is important. A couple of things about money. We gave our incumbents money in December, long before races started, as incumbent protection money to get them started. One of the stories I like to tell about fundraising happened 4 years ago with the Maria Collette campaign. It was a 4-figure check, which 4 years ago for us was a lot. We gave Maria $8,000 in her primary. She turned that $8,000 into $70,000 by paying for mailings into her district. Then people considered her a viable candidate. So much of the money, Melanie mentioned the money that comes in late in the campaign, and a lot of big funders come in September. But what they do is they want to fund people they think are going to win. So they look at how much money's been raised so far. And that's why our money is important, is it gets out there. Jill mentioned wanting to do more mailings. That means we need to get Jill money. We won't make up Jill's funding gap, but we will give Jill the money that she needs to get out there to help make up her funding gap. And that's our role in this whole process. Melanie also mentioned that voting for some of our candidates is important for up-ticket races. And that's really true. That's what we've supported women who are not going to win. I'll, confess. We've supported some women who were so proud that they're in the race, but we don't think they're going to win. But we've given them small amounts of money just for two reasons. One is it annoys their Republican candidates that they have to, their opponents, because the Republican has to work harder. And another reason is it helps up ticket races. And finally, we do it because we want the women to know that we support them and we know how hard this is. But for the most part, at this stage, we're investing in races that need us. You can send us money, you can send Melanie money, you can send Trevor money, you can send us money, and we will evaluate. We're working very closely with these caucuses and evaluating candidates to make sure that we're giving money to candidates who can use it. And all of the candidates that you heard about today are women who are working for us. They're working hard. Listen to the discussion. Listen to Jill talk about she's either on call time or knocking doors. All of these candidates are doing it. These are long, long hours, and then they get to Harrisburg. And right now, I think that Katie Mooth refers to the Senate as the dome of corruption. We're out to change that. We're out to make, I listen to these women after these legislators, when they leave a week in Harrisburg, and they're frustrated and they're mad and they can't figure out why the legislators don't care about their constituents. We want to change that. We want to give them positive work. And the only way that happens is if we're all in on this one. Did I miss any questions that we need to ask? You can stay up to date by following us. We'll send out information about the various races, or you can reach out to the people we've had on. If you ever have any questions, just send them on to us. And one other question for both Trevor and to Melanie, and that's it. It's choice abortion. Is that really something, you mentioned that Trevor had mentioned in his talk that a number of the people you'd think would be supporting Democrats have traditionally supported some of the, quote, better Republicans. And I know Todd Stevens, for example, previously had the endorsement of Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has not supporting any of these Republicans this cycle because they've realized that the Republicans are voting for, or at least not against, and the people that they're voting for leadership are not consistent with their values. But there still are some Democratic organizations. There are some unions that are supporting Anne Marie Mitchell's opponents, for example, because, hey, we've known them for a while and we like them. Any other organizations we should be watching, and how big is abortion playing, Trevor and Melanie, in your campaigns?
I would say both on the doors and in polling. And we did, Jill's polling, Senator Lindsey Williams polling, and Senator Katie Mooth's polling. I think they went into the field the day Roe got overturned. So they are not the best, baseline, because while the news had sunk in, it wasn't really reflective in the polls. But what we've seen since is a huge shift in opinion post Dobbs, and also anecdotally on the doors, it seems to be one of the things people are most concerned about. I'd also say inflation and the economy are huge talking points for our candidates. And in several of our districts, the extremist Republicans and tying them to Doug Mastriano is also, huge for us. And, frankly, he's a state senator right now, so it is not a heavy lift to draw a line from one to the other. What I'm curious to see over the next week with the student loan decision, yesterday how things shift. But right now, Dobbs and kind of Doug Mastriano seem to be the things that are driving people. And I'd also say, you know, school and education. So the typical stuff, but I think Dobbs is the thing that is on the top of most people's minds right now.
And Trevor, is that the same for you? I know at our last presentation that you had done when you were talking about telling people to set their goals or to talk about their issues, you had made sure that there was an economic issue for every candidate. Is that still the case, or is Dobbs playing a bigger role?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. First off, I want to let you know the candidates who have friendly organizations on the other side include Missy Serrato,
Right.
Lisa Borowski, Lori Smith, Brian Monroe, and Mark Maffa. Those are the 5 districts where we have candidates that organizations that you would traditionally think of as Democratic may not be completely on our side. Second, it is still essential that we have an economic message. Different issues drive different sets of voters, right? So when you talk about a message, an economic message is essential to every campaign, because ultimately at the end of the day, there are so many families in Pennsylvania that they're worried about abortion, they're worried about this, they're worried about that, but they're also worried about food on their kids' table. How do they pay the power bill next month? How do they survive? So you've got to have that economic message. The turnout from Dobbs, what that is really doing right now is it is driving base enthusiasm. So people who are Democratic voters, they are now more enthused than they were. And it's really a sad reflection of American politics and the American electorate that it took something like stripping away the abortion rights of every woman in the country to cause those voters to get enthused, but it has. The other thing that we've seen recently is the registrations, which for the last several years have been favoring Republicans. Since Dobbs, in many of the crucial counties, it's favored us. So there is a shift. It is playing an important role in a lot of our races, but we've still got to have the economic message. We've got to have the message on abortion, and we've got to have other messages based on the campaign.
One of the things that I heard out of after the Kansas vote on abortion and on changing their constitution had to do with the fact that it wasn't just using the words abortion or even reproductive rights. It's government intrusion into people's lives. And to a lot of the voters, the whole concept of, you know, those people who didn't want mask mandates and they didn't want certain, you know, restrictions and stay-at-home restrictions, don't want the government pushing themselves into people's private lives. Is that message resonating in Pennsylvania also?
Yeah.
Both nodding.
For sure.
That's a government overreach. Thanks, Heidi. I was searching for the right phrase that people had talked about.
And Chris, I just put an article in the chat that came out on the 22nd about women are registering to vote in PA in numbers far exceeding men since the Supreme Court decision. It was in the Inquirer a couple of days ago, so I just dropped that in the chat.
That's great, because that's somebody had asked about voter registration. Now the big thing, you know, we're continuing to raise money, but voter turnout is going to be critical in all of these things. So it's somebody could meet a candidate, could understand an issue and say, gosh, that one really resonates with me. But getting them to the polls, getting them to register for vote by mail and getting them to the polls is the tough part. Let's move on to the final slides. I hope everybody's as enthusiastic, you know, clearly I'm enthusiastic, either over caffeinated or enthusiastic about these candidates, but I've met most of them and this is just wonderful. We've talked about what we need to win. You know, we've talked about that we don't have enough women. Talk about some of the issues. If you talk about economic issues, we're talking about things that affect women as well as men. If you talk about abortion, you know, that affects men also. Any of these issues affect them both, but we want to talk about reflective democracy. We want to make sure that women have an equal voice in our legislature, and we're working hard for it. we invest in candidates who are going to win. I mentioned that we've invested in some candidates who we're not sure are going to do as well, but we want them to run good races. We want for many reasons. We've now invested $397,000 in candidates this cycle. We did $500,000 in 2020. We're doing the work. We're evaluating the candidates and races. We're talking to Melanie and Trevor and other smart people around the Commonwealth. We have at least $175,000 in the bank, and we're meeting, our endorsement committee is meeting on Sunday to allocate that money, but we want more. We want to do another round in another month, and we're hoping to, we know we're going to be at least 575 after this round, but we need more. And we need to get it out there so that these candidates have some money that they can use to make more money. Your vote is your vote's your minimum contribution this year. It's the least you can do. That's rock bottom, go vote. But volunteer, support voter registration and voter turnout efforts. Connect with your favorite candidate, knock on doors and make phone calls. Be a poll worker, just to make sure that there's people at the polls who are making sure elections in your district are fair. Share your passion. Clearly, I'm passionate, Melanie's passionate, Trevor's passionate. Share your passion. Go home today, go to whatever meeting you're heading to next, say, I just sat in on the most amazing discussion with fabulous people who came in and talked about what's going on in Pennsylvania. We're going to send you the links so that you can share with other people the video from today. We will also summarize the candidates' names that both Melanie and Trevor talked about, so you have them top of mind. Oh, by the way, raise money. We have fundraisers scheduled in the Philadelphia area. I think we've got one. The next one is next week in Pittsburgh. We have one coming up September 1st in Penn Valley in the Philadelphia area. We've got a couple others in Center City coming up in September. We're trying. We're raising money as much as we can. Volunteer with us, but also volunteer with campaigns. Invite other people to join us. And Tuesday, September 13th, we're having people from both All NPA and Turn PA Blue to talk about what else you can do to support candidates. And always, as always, is there a subject you want to know about? You know, we come up with these topics, but let us know what else you'd like to know between now and November. Join our mailing list, invest with us, invest with these candidates. And remember, your vote is your minimum contribution to changing Pennsylvania this year, because there's so much else you can do. And donate. There's the link. We had the link in the chat. And guess what? The link will go into the email that we send you also. Any more money we raise this week, we'll allocate this weekend to candidates. And then money that comes in after this week will go out in the next round. We support change in Pennsylvania. We support positive change, and there's some great candidates. So thank you, everybody. Again, thank you, Melanie and Trevor, for all you do. Let us know as you're going through the campaigns if anything changes, you want us to change our priorities, and talk about us. Talk about what you heard today, and let's get this done. Thank you, Pennsylvanians.